Listen. I'm dancing to the music. I don't know what you doing. See, let me tell our audience something. I'm gonna jump right out the gate with this zig. I'm gonna go right out the gate. Let me tell you something. So when we're preparing the show, when we're getting ready and we're in the green room, right? And our theme music comes on. Listen, I'm dancing to the beat. See, but Dr. Ziggy, he is so busy. He like to multitask because you see, Dr. Ziggy is running a soon-to-be multi-million. I'm gonna go even further, multi-billion-dollar company, MEI, making education intentional. He's got multiple books. Let me not say multiple. He got a gazillion books that's on the market even now in Amazon. He got multiple. He got a gazillion books in the hopper ready to be birthed out to the world. You know how it is. I always wondered, Zig, how is it that after a singer has died or something like that, right? They always go into this vault that has like umpteen hundreds of thousands of music pieces that they've written that were never, kicked out or whatever, right? Now, I'm not saying that about you that we're gonna wait. No, we're gonna get that stuff now. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
you working on
definitely,
a new
definitely.
book. I mean, if I could put some time on it, you working on a new book every 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even months at that. So yeah, I mean, so you doing the do. Now, I will say this. This is awkward to our audience, but I before the show, I did tell Ziggy that I was going to read this certain book, and if I read this certain book, it's probably the first time I finished the book in a long, long time. So I'm putting it on record. I mean, it's being recorded. It's live right now on some of these on two of our platforms. I'm just saying. I'm gonna get through the book, and when it's all said and done, we're gonna be gazillionaires.
There you go. Well, why don't you show them the book, man?
Listen, let me show them the book. Let's promote this
It's
thing.
it's a book by Patrick Bit David, and it's
Patrick Big
called
David.
The Next Five Moves.
Now, is this how does it look on your screen? Is it backwards or forwards?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay,
It's,
good,
it's
good,
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Your next five, and so we're gonna do this book right here. We pushing the envelope.
and it's gonna
Once the
take us
once
to
the
the
book is
next
done,
level because it shows you how to stay ahead of the curve and ahead of your competitors, and how to be so organized that you are ready for anything that comes your way.
yeah. And I just turned to page 273, and it said, "Leveling up means starting over at the bottom."
Mm, mm, mm.
All right now. All right now, and I don't know why they waited for the last chapter to say I got to start over. I thought I read all the good stuff on how to get to where I need to get to. But listen, hey Zig, man, what's going on? How you feeling this evening?
Hey, listen, man, listen. It's been a while since we had our last taping, but let me tell you an awkward situation that I had, and you remember the conversation I had with you about a week ago, so I'll share that
Mm-hmm.
with you. Um, I was cleaning some cobwebs out of my garage, and so I got up on a ladder and I was cleaning the cobwebs in the corner, and I was 8 feet up in the air. And then all of a sudden, I was like, man, I got to get that last piece of cobweb over there on this
Mm.
side. So I reached over just a little, and I lost my balance because I'm no longer a young man. So I lost
Mercy.
my balance and I fell 8 feet onto the step. And
Wow.
so I didn't even land flat. I landed on the various edges of the step. And so I gathered myself. Well, I hit my head, my back, my shoulder, and my leg. And I gathered myself and I called my wife just to let her know, just in case something happened and I went into, like some type of coma or something, or, she would know what had happened. And so she told me, hey, be careful. And I said, yes, I'm going to be careful. So I got back up on the ladder because I was coaching myself. And I said, well, when you fall down, you got to get up and you got to get back on that horse. You got to get over those fears, man, or your life could be changed and you could really, really be scared of doing things that you normally used to do. So I got back up on the ladder, and I was up on the ladder no more than 3 minutes where it slid and it twisted again, and I fell on the same step. This time I busted up my leg. I hit my back, and the other shoulder, and then I said, you know what, I'm not going to do this until somebody comes home and can help me. But yeah, the awkward situation is I called my wife again and I said, hey, you remember that phone call 5 minutes ago about how I fell off the ladder? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, I fell off again. So she was like, do I need to leave work and come home early? Take you to the hospital? I was like, nah. Do you need to go to urgent care? Nah, I'll be fine. She's like, don't go to sleep. And if you feel like you're going to fall asleep, call me and I'll come home and get you because you can't fall asleep. But to fall off the ladder twice in less than 15 minutes is a very awkward situation, man.
Listen, and this is about to be awkward too. There's a song that a great gospel singer sings.
We fall down.
Yeah, and so the words simply like this, because you know I'm a singer. It says, "We fall down, but we get up. We fall down, but we get up." Now, there's a piece they left out of that song. When you fall down, don't get up. Listen, man. Sometimes now it's a twist to this, right? We always got a twist to any of these stories, right? This is a takeaway from this story. Sometimes you got to stay down so somebody can help you up.
Hey,
No, but we glad you good, man.
I was on an
And
agenda, man. I had stuff I needed to do, so I couldn't just stay down. But how I felt the second time was because the garage floor was so smooth that the grippers on the bottom of the ladder could not keep me up, and so it slid backwards. And when I realized I was sliding backwards, I jumped, and that's when it twisted.
there is a term, just almost like an African proverb, right? There is a term in the I don't even know what term to use. I was just use. There's a term in the handyman world, in the handyman book of quotes and terms,
And
and it
I ain't making
says
this up.
it says a man or woman, doesn't matter, kid or whatever, a man will never fall off a ladder in the same place twice.
Really, really, that's what you're gonna go with?
It goes on to say, he who falleth twice shall become a millionaire by playing the lotto the same exact day.
Well, why you gonna tell me that now, man? Because the day's gone.
That's why you got to listen to these handyman proverbs.
Mm-mm-mm.
But listen, man, listen, I'm glad to be here once again on our show. We always like to capture the moment in who our sponsors are and things of that nature. And we always want to remind you our sponsor for this program is MEI, Making Education Intentional. And like we always say, our CEO sits on the other side of this screen right there, Dr. Ziggy. He's there. So we always appreciate what MEI, like we said before, MEI is as an umbrella. And from that umbrella, you know what? I'm going to say it's a tree. From that tree, many limbs are birthed. And so we continue to see the rise of that. Also, while I'm talking about it, we were featured on Henry's House Media Productions. Our show is out there. We were interviewed by him. You want to check it out. It's an hour worth of laughter and just getting good information. We share stuff with you. So I'm just throwing his name out there again. Henry's House Media Productions on YouTube. Check it out. Also, I was on there today on Spotify. So that recording also is on Spotify too, Zig, on his platform there. So very good interview. Saw some great comments related to it. So yeah.
Hold on,
So
before you go
that's
forward, I just want to let you know I had so much fun on that show. I'm putting it out there now. You need to get us back on there, man, because that was a blast.
Listen, we working on it because we working on some other things. So when we go back, even if it's for the same show, we rather for it be for another show. But if we go back, let's just go back. What we should do is we should bring him on our show.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We can
And
do that.
and we're gonna change. We're gonna be in the question answering seat. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be the one that's be able to roast because people listen. Let me. It was an awkward show. It was a really awkward show.
Yeah, because
You
he's
know,
coming
they
at
they
your neck.
roasted. Yeah, they not just him. Both of these guys were just. I mean, they was roasting me like it was roast me today. But it was real good, really good show. So we in it today. We in it today. We in it to win it today. Today's episode that we're doing is awkward situations in awkward situations. When I threw that to Zig looked at me like awkward situation, awkward. How you get that? Let me tell you how you get an awkward situation in an awkward situation.
You
That's how
struggle.
you get an awkward situation in an
You
awkward
struggle.
situation.
All right. So let me help you. So I remember back when I was 17, I was in college, man, and I had to take this test, and I hadn't studied, so I stayed up the whole night and studied for this test. 24 hours straight, I was studying for this test, and I was ready for this sucker, man. Went into that test, and well, you see my eyes already look sleepy. But anyway, I went into that test. This time my eyes were sleepy, so they got even smaller. But the awkward situation is I took that test. I knew all the answers, and I wrote my name out, got up, and I left. Well, 2 class periods later, he was passing out the test, and he was like, and I have 1 test left, and I don't know who this belongs to. I couldn't read the name. And I'm kind of skeptical. Now, it was me and one other person who hadn't gotten their test back. Well, but that last person, the person who had not yet taken the test, they were going to get another test. But that person was known to get like good scores. I was not known for getting good scores, but he didn't want to give me the test because he was like,
This can't be him.
I think it should be your test, but I know you hadn't taken the test yet. So how old I don't think it's you. And so when he passed the test back, I'm like, yeah, that is me. I had spelt my name wrong. Like I was so tired and so out of it that I barely wrote. I said S something. I jumbled up some of the stuff. But the awkward situation is the teacher didn't want to give me back my test. And I had a similar situation, and I was in Trinidad. When I was 19, I got another similar situation like that when I was in a chemistry class this time. And that one, the first one was a biology class. This second one was a chemistry class. And I was used to getting low B's, medium B's, maybe a high B. Never gotten an A in this class. And this particular test, I got an A. And I believe it was like a 97%. And the kids who normally got high grades, they were all getting low grades for this particular test. And so he wanted to do a retake. He was like, did you get access to the key? Did you get access to the test ahead of time? He did not want to believe that a person who would normally get low B's or medium B's or high B's would actually get an A or A plus. And so he almost redid the test because he did not think that my grade was worthy for his class.
Wow. Listen. So one of my awkward situations is I was taking a Spanish class. Okay. I couldn't figure out Spanish to save my life, but I was taking a Spanish class in Chicago, and it was a online class. So it was like a virtual class.
And by the way, listeners, he's of Spanish origins. Just so you know,
you're doing too much. You're doing too much.
Awkward.
So I'm taking this Spanish class, and I'm really trying to understand it, whatever the case is. So it's online. I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna get through this thing, right?" So we had to write a paper in Spanish.
Oh wow.
I took to Google and I typed in the whole page, project, whatever, typed it up, whatever, the story, whatever I had to do, typed it all up. Then I put it into the whole, you can do the translator, Google
Google
Translator.
Translate.
So I translated, and that junk was looking good. I was like, yeah, that's what I mean. It had, all the punctuations that needed to be there. Every, accents would have to be, whatever. Pronounce it. Listen, I turned that paper in. That was the final. Yep, that was the final. That was the final. Hey, I needed that to pass. Well, needless to say, number one, I didn't pass. But number two, the teacher called me and she said, I just want to just understand, I got your paper. And I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking she called me, let me know how good it was. Listen, she said, most of it wasn't making sense. She was like, it was just not meshing. Like, it was like a word was here, but then one was popped up, it was way over here. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm on the phone like, well, I don't know. I did the best I could. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it was so awkward, especially for the fact that I knew that I didn't know nothing related to that doggone Spanish. Now, going back a few years, I should have learned my lesson. I had a project. I was taking a C plus class in computer science, and all I had to do is do. So number one, you had to do. I had to do the. I did the hello command. Make that formula, whatever it is, for the hello command, right? Then you had to do something unique on your own. So I wasn't too into the class anyway. So my boy, who's a computer science major, I was a minor. I was like, yo, can you say, yeah, man, I got you, right? So he did his whole command thing, right? That did all the stuff for C plus, whatever program, create all thing, whatever. And I turned it in. I ain't even fact check his in. I just turned the joint in. So what was awkward was when the teacher said, hey, Charles, I want you to try to do this command that, whatever, right? So I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, maybe you want to see how bad I am. Like, yo, this dude is just and so I tried to do it. It didn't even work.
Oh wow.
He said, well, what are you missing in it? Because he said, I was trying to put it all together. I just couldn't figure it out. What you missing? I was like, well, I don't know what I'm missing. He straight up told me, he said, I know you didn't do this. I'm gonna give you a C. he said, I'm gonna pass you. He said,
oh,
but
man.
that was some awkward situations in an awkward situation.
Hey,
Because the awkwardness of it was
yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm about to say the awkwardness of it. Number one is I ain't know nothing about the class, trying to figure it out. And then the other one too, the Spanish class, I couldn't speak Spanish to save my life. And it was just awkward all the way around.
All right, let me tell you an awkward situation. I was studying for British history British history class in college. And my boy, I was studying for like several hours. I was studying from like 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Then my boy called me and he was like, guess what? I was like, what? He was like, my girl, you know my girl, right? I was like, yeah. He was like, my girl is the aide for the British history teacher. And she just finished printing up the test. And we got it. He was like, why do you come through the room and look at this test? Because we got it for tomorrow. I was like, okay. So I rolled through there. And I held the test in my hand. It was still warm. That was how hot off the press that bad boy was. It was still warm from the copying. So I looked at it. I was like, okay, I already studied that. Okay, I studied that. Ooh, okay, that was a surprise. All right, I know what I need to do. He was like, yeah, I'm not even going to study for this bad boy because I got the test in my hand. I'm like, all right. I said, look, I'll holler at you later. I went home and I studied, man. I went back to my dorm room and I studied and I studied and I studied. And so I wrote essays to each one of those questions, right? And I rewrote them all night long. I just wrote and rewrote until it came naturally. Man, we went in there, took the test. We come out. I was like, so how'd you do? He was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I was like, how you not gonna know you had the test? So a couple of days later, he was like, "Yeah, I got a D minus, man." He was like, "What'd you get?" I said, "I got a B plus." He was like, "How you get a B plus?" I said, "Because I actually studied." So
Did the teacher
the
go ahead.
awkward situation is he had access to the test, and he thought he had it in the bag because he had the test. And what he didn't understand is, even though you have all the pieces to the puzzle, you don't know how to put it together in a way that is pleasing to the puzzle pieces,
Right.
you're not gonna do well, and so the one lesson I want to bring out of that is this: if you get a chance to get ahead, you got to take full opportunity of it and not just squander it, because a lot of us
Right.
start out in life ahead of a lot of other people, but we don't move very much further because we get caught up in the fact that we started above and we lose our motivation. Have you seen a lot of people like that in your interactions from young all the way up to now, where people started ahead and they ended up last or close to the back of the line because they squandered their start?
Yeah, and I think that there's a message somewhere in there as it relates to that, right? In that awkward situation type of way, right? Is you see some of those like, and you hate to say it, but you see some of those who have high grades. They have the A pluses and everything, and you're struggling along the way, just trying to make it past that class. And as years go on, you kind of check in on them every once in a while and stuff. And then it's like at some point along the way, it's like, wait, hold on, how did I get in front of this person when I was in back of this
Mm-hmm.
person? And then you kind of find out when you hear their story, they'll say something like, at one point in my life, I got depressed, or I got a bad grade on something and I never recovered,
Mm-hmm.
or I got a job and I was laid off, or I was fired because of it's many different stories that come out of that, and that's why it's important, as you stated, right? Instead of you taking that test and going by what the test said on it, you said, I'm gonna go against the grain and I'm gonna study,
Yeah.
for this test. Where this other person didn't study and thought they could take the shortcut
Mm-hmm.
the finish line. You know what I mean? And like you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I like what you said. You can have the full puzzle, but if you don't know how it goes together, then it's not worth having.
Yeah, because history is his story, and what we had to do was to write a story for each one of those questions
Mm-hmm.
for his, which was the teacher.
Yeah.
He wanted some dates. He wanted a story. He wanted it to connect and go together
Mm-hmm.
in a fluid way. And you can't just know the questions. You got to put the dates and all the individual pieces with it. Now, I have another funny story for you. I remember there were these two girls that always used to get the highest grades in organic chemistry back in college, man. You
Mm-hmm.
know the college I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I remember one day I was taking this test, and I thought the test was a fairly easy test. So I look over to the right, and I see the girl who normally has like the A grade. She's normally rocking, like, she didn't get less than 98% on any of these chemistry tests. Now, this one was organic chemistry or biochemistry. I can't remember which one. But anyway, she was taking this test, and I'm looking over it, and she's crying like the waterworks. Because at first, we just heard some sniffling. So everybody stopped looking at her, and everybody, but she threw everybody off their game because everybody's like, "Wait, hold on, is she crying?
Right.
Is she crying?" And like, what is it with the rest of us? Well, thank goodness I was almost done before I realized the waterworks was going on, so it didn't phase me any.
Right.
But I thought the test was reasonable. I look over there and she's crying and crying and crying. So finally she gets up, she turns in the test, and she runs out. She didn't even walk out. She runs out.
Wow.
She's just crying. And so I finished right like soon after. I go out there, and she's still out there crying. And she's like, I don't know what happened. Well, she did not study there's two different types of smart people.
Mm-hmm.
There's smart people who study forever,
Right.
to get an A grade, and then there are people who it really comes to easily. And so she was one of those that studies for a long period of time. Well, something happened and she didn't get the chance to study as long as she normally studied for each test. And so she said she drew a blank while she was in the test. When she gets up and she goes outside, it all comes back to her.
Wow.
She remembers. So she tries to come back in, and the teacher's like, "Nah, you left the room, right?" So have you ever had a situation like that, awkward situation where your mind went blank in the test and you couldn't remember anything, and maybe it came back after you left the test?
Listen, you and my deck of cards right now. You know my spades hand. So listen, I remember. So I used to do the "I Have a Dream" speech in high school for a few years, and did it for different events that would come. I was part of a group, like a drama group, whatever. But so I was tasked with doing the "I Have a Dream" speech because I had that voice. And at one particular event, now I had done this speech, man, like many times, and for all intents and purposes, I'm trying to perfect it, right? I know all the words. I got that part, right? I got his voice a little bit, right? And we're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King, so I got that voice a little bit, but I began to feel. I'm like some of these actors, like they say, when I do this role, like I become somebody different, right? So listen, I began to hear the speech in my ear, right? So I'm doing the speech at this event, right? All these people from like the NAACP are there, and some VIP and all different individuals. Every year I add a piece on, make it look like next year I'm gonna say President of the United States was there. But anyway, so so all these different people are there. My parents are there and everything and all that kind of good stuff. And so I'm up there, and while I'm doing the speech, Zig, I can hear it in my ears, right? It was like something I had never heard before, but I could hear it. So I'm for all intents and purposes, I'm Dr. Martin Luther King. So I'm doing the speech, man. I get to a certain point in the speech, and I went blank.
Wow.
Like when I said blank, I mean I was. So it was like this. I was trying to get to the part, okay, I have a dream from every hill and every valley, from every plain and every city, such and such and such, such. And it was like, and my eyes didn't shift, nothing. I was just looking just like this, Zig. I was just like this. And I was like, that was the awkward situation. Now, let's talk about the awkward situation in the awkward situation. I ran off the stage. Literally, I ran off the stage, ran into the back, jumped over this couch.
And hid.
I was in tears, like the girl was. I was in tears. And so my mom came back there, and just like I just finished boxing or something, they come back there, and so I actually had, that's all jokes aside, this is how good the speech was. When I walked off and ran off the stage, I got a standing ovation.
Oh, wow.
That's how good the speech was getting, right? They want me to come back out. And these people, these dignitaries, I'm talking about people from around the world, I just add that piece in there, right? They wanted me to do that thing again.
Oh, wow.
I got up there. I wiped my tears. See, this is when I said earlier, when you fall down, you got to get back up, like you said. And then I also said, when you fall down, sometimes you need to stay down. So listen, I wiped my tears. Listen, I got out there, man. I went through it again. I said, and from every hill and molehill in Mississippi, from every mountainside, let freedom ring, and let it ring from this valley and this valley and this valley.
You didn't even take your notes with you.
At the exact same spot. The exact same spot. I said to myself, I'm saying now to myself back then, when you fell down, you should have stayed down. Listen, man, it was the most awkward situations in awkward
Wow,
situations.
that's crazy.
Man, I don't even know how I recovered. Well, in our takeaways, we'll talk about that in a minute, but
Mhm.
I don't know how I recovered from it. But listen, brother, listen. That was an awkward situation.
Hey,
All the
listen,
way around.
I got one for you. Back when I was a teacher for third, fourth, and fifth grade, I remember one time in science class, I had this one kid. She acted up, man. And so I wrote a note home to the parent, and it was supposed to get signed.
Mm-hmm.
So what? So she bust out crying because she didn't. She was like, "Please don't write me a note. Please don't write me a note. I'm going to get in trouble. We're supposed to go out after school today, and if I get this note, I'm going to get in trouble." I'm like, "Sorry, I can't do it." So she's crying, she's crying, she's crying, and so close to the end of the class, she does something ridiculous. I can't remember what she did. So I said, "Give me the note. I gotta add something to that note, man."
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "I can't find it." And I'm like, "What do you mean you can't find it?" "I can't find it." I'm like, "I just gave it to you half an hour ago." I said, "Open your desk." So she opens the desk. I'm like, "There it is right there." So she was like, "That's not it." I'm like, "Yes, that's it." I was like, "Give it to me." So she gives it to me reluctantly. And I looked at it. It's already signed. She already signed the note for her father. And so I took the note. I'm like, "You already signed it." I'm like, "How your father signed it and I just gave it to you?" So she was like, and she bust out crying even louder. She's like, "He gonna beat me. He gonna beat me." So anyway, he comes and picks her up, and I show him the note. He reads the note, and I was like, "What's wrong with this?" He's like, "Yeah, I signed it." I was like, "But you signed it today. Do you remember signing this today?" He was like, "No." He was like, "But that's my signature." He's like, "That's my signature." I'm like, "Yeah, she signed it today." She's like, "This is hers." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I couldn't even tell." So now the awkward situation is, how many times did she do that
Prior to that.
year prior to that? Because he was like, "I couldn't even tell this wasn't my signature. If you hadn't told me that you gave this to her today, I would have sworn blind that I signed this paper." And she was just in third grade.
Wow.
So there's two awkward situations. The first one is his handwriting was atrocious
Yeah.
because if a third grader can forge a signature, that's not a good thing. And then secondly, she got busted.
Wow.
And the whole class was like in stitches, man. They were like, "Yo, she signed it." And I had a student. Now, you always have a student who was always like co-signing.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, snap. Oh, snap." The hype guy. He's like, "Oh, snap. She already signed it. She already signed it." And it was hilarious, man. But yeah, that was an awkward situation in an awkward situation.
Wow. Listen, man. We can go on, and really be honest with you. These awkward situations within awkward situations is totally different than the awkward situation. You know what I mean? Because like you can't put a title on this. Like you can't lock this in like we do like awkward situation with shoes, awkward situation with family, awkward situations. These are those treasures that you wouldn't normally figure out would go hand in hand. Like you go from one awkward into straight into another awkward, making it a true awkward
Yeah,
situation.
definitely, man.
So, with that being said, what's our takeaways from this? What do you have?
Well, I'm gonna say this. Look, embrace the awkward situations in life because you can always learn something from them.
Mm,
And when you get caught in an awkward situation within an awkward situation, that's the time to reflect to find out how you got there and what you could do to get yourself out of there and make sure you don't get back in that spot. Because
mm,
a lot of times, if you reflect on it, you've done something deliberate,
yeah.
whether it was intentional or unintentional. It was deliberate. It was something you actively did to get yourself in that situation.
Wow.
And if you want to make sure you don't get back in that situation, you have to take deliberate steps to not do what you did previously
Mm,
to
mm,
get yourself in those spots. What
wow.
do you want to say from that?
Wow. So mine's a twofold thing because at the beginning of the show we talked about the falling down and getting back up again, and we glad that you got back up, and so we're not making fun of your situation. I wanted to put that. You know what? I want to. This is gonna be awkward.
You can't even say that with a serious face, man.
I want to put that out there right now because based on the conversation we had yesterday, I want to make sure we're in good standings.
Yeah, because I told you I was going to bring up something today, but I decided not to. Hey, listeners, he got himself in an awkward situation yesterday, but I'm going to leave that for just the two of us right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Ace in the hole.
There you go.
Later on.
That. Yeah, because I got I got a few bullets. I'm like old Bishop Eddie Long. I know it's totally different. Bishop Eddie Long said he said I got 5 stones, but I ain't through one yet. But my thing is this, and this is my takeaway from this is when I was doing that speech and I ran away and I came back and I ran away, one guy said to me, he was from one of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and I threw them out there, because I was
those are pretty boys, aren't they?
I was gonna pledge that fraternity back before I went to the college I went to. But anyway, and I was a what was I? Anyway, he said to me, he looked at me, he said, "Listen, you got." He said, "You got to get back on the stage as soon as possible." He said, "Because if you don't, you're going to develop stage fright." So he admonished me to make sure that I did something immediately, that I went back, because I was acting everything too. So I made sure I was back on the stage, and I've been on the stage ever since, you know what I mean? But when you find yourself in a difficult situation, and for all intents and purposes, it doesn't work out too well for you, just like the young lady with the test and she ran away, right? If it doesn't work out, jump back in as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Don't let that be the thing that you look back at 30 years later and said, "I wish I would have did that because my life would have been different." So jump back up, settle back in, and get that thing done. That's my takeaway from this show. And let me tell you, it's probably one of my best takeaways ever. It tops anything that the Good Doctor has to offer. I'm going to tell you that right now. See, we do another show called Relate to This where he's dropping the bomb on you. But listen, I'm throwing out some nuggets. I ain't talking about the McDonald's kind either. I'm throwing out some real nuggets to you.
Real chicken.
Listen, this has been a great show. I've enjoyed it. I love it every time that music comes on and we got 13 seconds to get ready for this show. I get excited. See, you didn't play sports, so you don't know about this excitement part. See, when the music starts playing and we run out on the basketball court in the pregame warm-up, let me tell you right now, a whole new world opens up. That's what this show is like. It's like we just like we go from one person into another just like that. I love it, Ziggy. I love it.
That's good, my friend.
So subscribe. Let your mamas know. Let your mamas know. Let your brothers know. Let your brother and your daddies know.
Your brother's brother.
Awkward. That's an awkward situation. In an awkward situation. But let them know. Subscribe today. Get on the show. Get on the bandwagon. Get here. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Amazon. Jump on. Get ready, because in 2024, we got 5 moves we're going to make.
Yeah, and we killing it in 2024, man.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen, I'm your boy, Jay Tross. That's my boy, Ziggy. And we out.
Peace.